Yo, what's up, people? It's your boy the Kryptonian saying here, bringing you a review for One Piece chapter 492. And I think we can all agree right here that the moral of this story is you never know who you're going to run into tomorrow. The people you meet on the way up are the same people you meet on the way down. And that's exactly what happens when you get to Hachi, when Luffy and the Straw Hats finally get to the Flying Fish Riders' little hideout. And they say, hey, how's Arlong doing? And Nami's looking. My girl's like, I think I know this motherfucker from somewhere. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. She puts two and two together, so does Sanji. And Luffy says, hey, we're not rescuing your ass. You can go on somewhere. And that's when you got Kami. She's getting all upset. Or Cammy, she's getting all upset. And she's, basically crying, saying, I can't believe you guys are so cold-hearted. And she jumps right into the water after Frankie tells her that's why you get captured so much, because you're too damn trusting. And I like how in a small brief moment you actually see that Hachi is regretting what he's done, because as he's hearing that the Straw Hats are coming towards where the hideout is, he's thinking, oh shit, Nami's gonna hate me. I was part of Arlong's gang. So it's showing that there's some remorse to this. And what I find really interesting about this is Oda is continuing to do something that he slowly set up with Hachi way back in Arlong Park, which you guys know is my favorite arc so far. And that's, he's shown that Hachi isn't completely, evil. Followed Arlong, there's a mean streak to him, but everything's not black and white. And in a way, now I'm not comparing him to the Straw Hats, but in a way he's written very similarly. Because with the Straw Hats, they're supposed to be pirates, pirates are bad, and yet they do good things. And with Hachi, he's a bit of a goofball, but at the same time, Hachi isn't completely evil. If you look at all the other members of the Arlong's crew, Hachi was different. He had that cool fight with Zoro. He was a bit comedic relief, but I never got a malicious type of intent from him. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And I think Oda's trying to tell us just a bigger narrative, which is you never know when you're going to run into people from your past. And if you got to be a memory, I've always loved this expression. If you got to be a memory, make sure you're a good one for people, because the point blank period of it is this: you never know when you run into them and you might need their help one day. And if it was me, I don't blame Luffy for saying we're not going to rescue you, because what's to say he doesn't try to stab them in the back? I mean, you were former enemies. I know what shonens, this is a long-running trope. It's actually one of the shonen tropes I hate. I absolutely detest it, which is the fact that former enemies become allies at some point. And I understand that that's one of the things shonen are trying to teach the middle grade to high school boys to kind of read these things, which is you got to learn to forgive. You got to learn to forgive people. I totally understand that, but at the same time, there are some times where you can't forgive what somebody's done, and you're well within your reason for doing so. And to use a perfect example, since Hachi is from Arlong Park, that would be like if Nami was the main character, and I read that shit. I wouldn't read no Nico Robin in that motherfucker as a main character, because I don't want to read her flipping through books and shit, using her fucking different hands to put on. I don't want to read that shit, right? Like, trolling, guys. But that would be like Nami forgiving Arlong after everything Arlong did. And that's what I mean. You just get to a point where you just cross the line. And what I think Oda's trying to hammer home in this is the fact that sooner or later, when you do meet those people, your sins have to be accounted for. You have to answer for them. So I'm going to be really interested to see how the Straw Hats interact with Hachi after he's eventually rescued. And I think that this might be a short arc, because we do have the mystery of Duval. He's got this grudge against somebody on the Straw Hats. And at first I thought maybe that would be Arlong, because you have all these fishmen around. But as I start paying attention to his words, and he was saying that man, and I finally get to meet the Straw Hats, it was like, okay, it's somebody who hasn't really met them. And so it's obvious he's talking about Brooks. So this would be pretty cool if we have somebody from Brooks' past who shows up and they have like the confrontation that way. It'd be a good way to see Brooke kind of test his mettle against one of the top bosses. I mean, we got a small glimpse of it in Thriller Bark, but this would be pretty cool. And the fact that he is a swordsman, I'm really hoping we see Zoro and Brooke team up at some point. That would be really fucking awesome to see. But The other thing on this I thought was really cool is the fact that when Luffy decides to save Cammy after she gets caught, he jumps into the air, he uses devil fruit ability, stretches, he pulls her and that little starfish out the water, and Luffy gets back on the ship, and Hachi's letting them know, like, hey, you gotta chill out. They got the flying fish riders under the water, and Luffy's like, underwater in the seas, I'll kick their ass regardless. And that's one of the things I'm loving about Luffy is he's always had the mentality, but after Ian's Lobby, Luffy has just taken it to another level. Like when he showed up on Thriller Bark, he was like, I'm about to whoop their ass, all these zombies. And Luffy, no hesitation, pulled one of the zombies out the ground and proceeded to get the answers. And I'm just loving this change in Luffy because it's been there before, but I feel like it was more from a comedic aspect. I think in some cases, when you go back to Arlong Park, when you go back to what happened with Don Krieg on the Barate, when you go back to what happened in Reverse Mountain with Vivi when she was I believe Miss Wednesday, when you look at all of that, Luffy needed a trigger. And I feel like sometimes Luffy needs that trigger point. What's really beautiful about this is the fact that Luffy's just acting the moment he sees the opportunity to do so before things get out of hand. So that's another thing I'm really glad the Oda's doing. And just to get personal with you guys, I want to say that I completely understand where Hachi's coming from, because when he wanted to cover himself in black ink and everything, it really, really resonated with me, because with Hachi, he knows that he wasn't necessarily a good person, and yet he feels remorse for it, and in a way you could kind of tell he wants to be forgiven, and yet he can't. And for me, you know, I know for me, like I was in, I want to say 10th grade, I was in 10th grade, so I was like 14 going on 15, and there was this girl I was dating at the time, you know, her name was Sarah, and when I was talking to Sarah, the real big thing is fuck, do I really want to I'm gonna share that story. The real big thing on this was we had like a little period where we kind of fell out, and what had happened is I was texting her all the damn time, and this is back when text messages, you didn't have an unlimited plan back then. This is like 2000, and this is mid 2000s, and what's really ill about this is text messages used to be, I want to say 15 cents to open one up and read it, and then another 15 cents to send it. And because we were at different schools, we were texting all fucking day, right? So, and all night, and then I get on the phone and talk to her, because back then you had like the free phone calls after 7 o'clock, so I'd be on the phone with her late at night. So I'm constantly talking to this girl, right? And what ended up happening was my phone bill ended up being, and I bullshit you not, my phone bill came out to be $900. And I'm still in high school at the point. I mean, my mom made really good money back then. You know, my mom was vice president for one of the really big banks that ended up falling down when the recession started. And this is what ended up happening. My mom said, I can pay this, and I'm going to pay this, but you're giving me your cell phone. And so I went like 2.5 months without my fucking phone. I'm paying my mom back what I can. I had a really lucrative CD business. At the time, she wasn't making me pay my phone bill, so I was just straight profit, right? And I was just jacking the money off, man. I was buying game systems and video games like fucking crazy, buying clothes, all types of shit, like going out on the weekend. That's when I got a chance to, hang out with a lot of my friends. And so anyway, so when I finally get my cell phone back, I get all these messages like, hey, where are you at? Girls text. They text like two sentences and then send, and then another 2 sentences and send. So it's like, hey, where are you? Do you not like me anymore? What's going on? Etc., etc., etc. And so I'm reading these over at my friend's house, right? My friend at the time, his name was Johnny. And I'm reading them over at the house and everything. And he says, oh, man, what you gonna do? I said, I don't know what to tell her. So he says, hey, just tell her you got into a car accident, you couldn't talk. And so I didn't know he was fucking joking. So I'm like, yeah, sure, fine, go ahead. Toss him the phone. He sends her the fucking text message and says like, yeah, I'm in the hospital with him. You ain't gonna believe this shit. He got into... And so this whole situation just starts escalating. And it's during this time Like, she's sending messages and everything, and I'm finding out a whole bunch of shit. I didn't realize this girl was as fucking crazy for me as she was. So, me being the dumbass, and I was a dumbass back then, so me being the dumbass I am, I tell him just keep going ahead. And so, unbeknownst to me, he actually tells her that I died on the fucking table, right? And that to bring me back to life. And this is so fucked up. I'm laughing because I'm ashamed, not because I think it's funny. But he tells her I got brought back to life on some Brooke shit. Like I ate the fucking revived vibe fruit, right? And she just fucking loses it. Actually walks out the classroom, has to go to the guidance counselor from what I got told. And it just fucked me up. And it's at that point where I couldn't not say anything. But if I did say something, I knew I was going to lose my girlfriend, right? And everything just starts clicking for me, right? Because I remember we had a conversation before my phone got taken. And I remember in one of the conversations we had, you know, she was asking me like, hey, what kind of wedding do you want to have? You know, I would like to get married to you here, this type of shit. And I mean, that's, you know, typical high school girl type shit. But, you know, getting a little personal for you, you know, out of all the people I've dated since then, you know, I've never really felt as, you know, comfortable as I did with her back then. And what's really interesting about all of this is I finally come clean. And this is where the shit with Hachi and the Straw Hats come in. So I finally come clean, and just how Zoro and the rest of them, they get pissed off and they tell Kami or Cammy like, hey, I can't fuck with that guy. You know, leave his ass out there. I remember my license was taken away, so I'm walking back to my house, right? And she lived in a subdivision probably about half a mile away from me. And so I'm walking back to my house, and there's no sidewalks. And I see a car coming down the street. And I'm thinking, oh shit, this car's moving faster than usual, right? And it's a 2-lane street. So you have the traffic going this way and the traffic going this way. She actually veers over and you know that in that moment she was probably thinking, okay, motherfucker, you thought you got into a car accident, I'd give your ass a car accident. And maybe she was doing it to scare me, I don't know. But I jumped over into the ditch and everything. I ruined my Jordans I had on at the time. I ruined my Kobe jersey, like really, really pissed. I understand where it came from. And to this day, all these years later, we got mutual friends, and she won't even say my name. She won't mention me. I actually went and applied. I didn't even know she was at this place where she was, but I actually went and applied to some place that she was working at post-college. And I was still in college at the time. And so I went there and I applied, and I actually saw her walking through the hallway. And I said, oh shit. And she didn't see me, but I'm like, man, this ain't gonna work. So I actually walked the fuck out of the fucking interview. I had already, not the interview, but out the room before the interview started. And I had already interned there, and it would have been a good gig, but I didn't know what position she had. And it turns out she actually works in HR there. And I probably would have lost my fucking job because it's just politics, you know? So I understand where Hachi's coming from. How he covered himself in black ink, that's kind of how I felt. And that's one of the sins that I have that I had to answer for, and you just never know when it's gonna, you know, pop up on you. So that was my embarrassing story slash, you know, one of my sins. You know, I would like to know, and this is gonna be my chapter question for you guys. I would like to know what's your embarrassing story or sin that came back from the past. But as always, guys, if you like it, oh, real quick note, you might notice that, you know, it looks like the camera's kind of cutting in and out a few times. For some reason, I'm getting a buffering issue, and I can record probably 7 minutes the first time, and then a few minutes, like a couple minutes here or there. So that's why you're seeing different things kind of meshing together. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching the end of the video, guys. Have an awesome day.